content marketers are just good people. I mean, they are.
What is one thing I love about working in content marketing? It's being able to tell the stories and connect with the customer.
It gives me the ability to capture people's stories and emote emotions through visual storytelling. It's one of the best things I love to do.
You get to create stories that change people's lives. And what a rewarding experience.
I think the best thing about content marketing is you're just looking for ways to help people and add value. You're not just trying to sell them something.
I feel like content marketing is a way to directly connect with your customers, and to me that's meaningful.
So it's really the relationship aspect to marketing that drew me to it and keeps me here.
When I was a reporter, my job was to write a story and then somebody else published it. It wasn't my job, to worry about the other stuff. And now, every pixel matters, and the UX of layout, matters. It's just really fun.
Content marketers are much more tied into long-term results, long-term relationships, making sure that they are building marketing, content strategy on foundations that will serve their organizations and their audiences for a much longer span of time.
My plea to marketers is that we gotta tell more creative and better stories. We have an unlimited amount of creativity that we have at our fingertips, and we actually have budgets to create way cooler stuff than most people are even dreaming of.
Here we go. Hey, we're just going to keep rerunning it. Hello, everyone. This is Amanda with the Content Marketing Institute. I'm so happy you're joining us this afternoon for the premiere of our season 2 of Live with CMI. I'm excited, as always, to be joined by my colleague, JK. JK, how are we surviving the 450th day of January?
It's only 450. I am, I think it's above zero today for most of us. So I'm starting to thaw out. As you can see, my beard is a little bit more gray since the last time we got to hang out on here. But it's fantastic seeing you. It's fantastic to be kicking off yet another year of these wonderful live streams. I couldn't wait for today because it's been so long since we've been on camera together, and I'm really looking forward to it.
You missed me. I
did. I really did miss you.
Well, today we are going to tackle something called responsible marketing. We've been seeing a lot of headlines about some companies walking back their DEI efforts. So we're going to chat a little bit more about that, but also about how leaning into an inclusive marketing approach is not only has real social impact, it can have drive tangible ROI for your company. So it can be really powerful, right, JK?
Oh, it can. And, today's guest, we're very honored to have Lola Bakare to discuss how you can build a responsible, inclusive marketing strategy that captivates consumers, but it also can deliver long-term growth to your organization. She's going to have some wonderful insights, so I'm really looking forward to chatting with her.
And before we get to all of that, my usual spiel, this live stream is brought to you by the Content Marketing Institute. If you don't know who we are by now, we're the leading training and education organization for all things content and marketing. And you can head on over to contentmarketinginstitute.com for tons of great resources. I think we just released our enterprise research report, so that's a good one to check out as well. And as you join us today, please give us a virtual wave, say hello, let us know where you're joining us from. We really want to hear from all of you. It makes for a more engaging live stream, of course. So feel free to drop questions and comments in the comment section as we go along here today. We will try to get to them as best we can. So I'm just going to actually get right into the live stream today. So I love this quote here. Nobody has the power to change the way people see the world more than marketers do. That's a line that really spoke to me, JK, from Lola Bakare's new book, Responsible Marketing.
It's a great line. Succeeding in a social mission alone, it really doesn't make successful inclusive marketing, make it a successful inclusive marketing initiative. As a marketer, you have to be have some fiscal responsibility to your brand, not just, and the bottom line. So that's where responsible marketing approach comes in. The kind of the confluence of all these things.
You totally nailed it. And I'm so glad that we're starting with this. I'm sorry, was there more to the question?
That was your whole introduction. Hold on, let me get rid of my live screen here. So there we go.
As you can tell, I've been in quite a few of these conversations as of late. So I'm like, I'm ready. No, but one thing I really want to appreciate about this particular live stream and you both is that it's not very often that you see this level of preparation. The people have actually even picked up the book before they have to read it, the title, to tell you what it's about. So I really feel, amongst rarefied air, and I'm super, super excited to have this opportunity to engage with the three of us on something. I get the sense that we all care about, and that can really make us have a more successful fiscally 2025. And so that's where I want to start. There's never been a need for a binary between inclusive marketing, fill in the blank, cause marketing, conscious marketing. All of those things have the word marketing in them. And for them to be true, they have to create outsized commercial value for them to be successful. Now, DEI as a principle, as a sociological group of concepts, which is another funny thing because you can't really cancel sociology, just like you can't really cancel DEI, like diversity, equity, and inclusion. These words are not leaving the dictionary because Donald Trump decided to name them, the Gulf of America or whatever. So like these are words in the English language that preceded the American experiment, of which I am a proud citizen, and a daughter of immigrants in a world where, maybe if I had been born 50 years later, I wouldn't be here. Maybe if Donald Trump had been born 200 years later, he wouldn't be here. So when we start to think back to what we care about as business people, as people who are focused on logic, as people who are focused on growth, there's nothing, and I think Corey from ELF, CMO, said it so beautifully yesterday on LinkedIn, as did her CEO. It really doesn't make any sense. And it's actually financially irresponsible to not consider the widest swath of your consumers who might be interested in engaging in your product if you're looking to be a long-term legacy, decades long, hundreds of years long company like the likes of Unilever and Procter and Gamble, which, and we talk about this in almost every talk I give, we need to remind people we're founded on a platform of purpose. They wanted to commercialize soap so that people wouldn't die of tuberculosis in the streets unnecessarily during the Industrial Revolution on both sides of the pond. And so how did they teach people to use that soap? Well, content marketing.
Yep.
Storytelling in the ads.
Right.
So none of this is new. I don't know who Robbie Starbuck is or when he went to where he went to school. I went to the University of Pennsylvania. I'm not necessarily proud of all my fellow graduates or classmates, whether they graduated or not. We won't get into that. But what I will say is that the thinking class is going to dramatically expand in the next 4 years, because if there's one thing that we didn't embark on this American experiment for, it was to be stamped back down. Too many people have risked their lives. And so as marketers who aren't performing brain surgery, who aren't on the front lines, whose jobs are, for all intents and purposes, pretty fun,
Mm-hmm.
Are we really going to feel burdened by the power we have to shape a cultural narrative that accepts more people than it excludes?
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not you believe in whatever happens when we're gone from here, I want to leave here knowing that my conscience is clear of doing everything I could in my sphere of influence to be on the right side of the line and make more money for the companies
Right.
that I steward.
Right.
I'm a
Exactly.
consultant now, but I come from that background
Mm-hmm.
Well,
of
I mean,
brand.
it's very simple. You do the right thing, and if you do the right thing, you can still make an abundance of money. Yeah,
You
by
just quoted the
Yeah.
the founder of Patagonia.
Yep.
yeah,
Every time I do the right thing, I make money.
Mm-hmm.
exactly. It's
And he
Mm-hmm.
wrote that in The Future of the Responsible Company, which I do also quote in my book.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like
Mm-hmm.
I'm curating. Yes, there are a lot of my original ideas in this thing, but I'm really curating the voices of reason that are all around us. Hey, do I always agree with Jamie Dimon? No. But on this issue, he's coming on the right side of the line.
Mm-hmm.
Goldman coming on the right side of the line. Costco coming on the right side of the line. So Apple, the most well capitalized company in history ever, they're
Mm-hmm.
making decisions to shore up the future of their business, not to assuage a tyrant CEO who's running his into the ground.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. So how can marketers, like you said, you want to be on the right side, you want to push, what can they do? Like push back against some of these, like maybe they're
Sure.
starting to talk about it in their company. Like how do we push back against that? Push back against the C-suite who might be like,
Yeah. I mean, I think everybody needs to, and this is something you'll be surprised hearing from me, stay in their lane. At a book launch event I had last week in New York, a young man who really reminded me of myself and happened to be a young white man raised his hand, and you could tell he's probably his early to mid 20s, had so many ideas, so frustrated by the way things were kind of going on in the company that he was in. And like, when do I get to have my say? When do I get to go in there and tell them, you guys, this is so wrong? And what I told him, which I also might surprise you, is, well, you don't do it that way.
mm,
You get in conversations. You get in the room, you ask questions, you
mm,
get people to talk about themselves, you learn what their interests are. Everybody has something that they care deeply about. And I go so far as to say love.
mm,
And if those of us who are allies and activists in this space, and when I say activists, I mean the type of activists that want us to use capitalism in a way that it benefits all of our stakeholders, just like John Mackey wrote in Conscious Capitalism, and that was the book that really changed the way I think about all of this stuff.
mm,
And again, written by a white male author, like maybe 20 years, that won't be the case. But that doesn't mean there's still not a lot that someone like him understands about what we really need to do in order to start to create not fully sustainable companies. 'Cause that's another thing. Yvon Chouinard will never, if you read his book, he'll never refer to Patagonia as sustainable. I found that fascinating.
mm, mhm,
He's simply saying, with what I have right now, with the conditions that we're in right now, all I can do is try to be as responsible as possible.
mm,
So
Right.
I use this word to really try to take the pressure off marketers. You're
mm,
not going to build Rome in a day. You're not going to do a really cool program that ended up getting, 5 Black-owned businesses on the shelf of Sephora, and then they became the quickest turning SKUs. So like obviously it worked. Like you doing that doesn't mean that Sephora corporate, I don't believe they are, but just an example. We could talk about the baking industry, I won't go there, but doesn't mean that like something else is happening on the other side of the house that isn't inside your control.
Yeah.
Should you
mhm,
stop putting money in the pockets of Black business owners because of that? Absolutely
mhm,
not.
mhm,
You
You,
control what you can control, you stay in your lane. And so I told him, start getting to know people,
mm.
ask them questions, get them to see you as an inquisitive young man, and then I guarantee you, before long, you will be invited to the table and asked for your opinion.
Yeah,
you
because
know,
you and
that's
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Amanda. I'm sorry.
That's a good point you make in the book. Like you make, when you have all these references to the different examples, you're like, you're not saying overall the company, there might be other things they're doing is not great, but don't forget that doesn't mean you don't call out the stuff that they're.
I mean, listen, I hate to say this, but I've lost friends who I thought were on the side of progress when and I'm someone who, when it comes to my real friends, my family, but also, of course, my intellectual friends, the LinkedIn set. I know the LinkedIn lunatics on Reddit are like, did she really just say that? Yeah, I said it. I love the place. What can I say? Literally every single one of the interviews I didn't have access with, through a friend of a friend, to getting in touch with, a LinkedIn DM was what allowed me to write this book.
Oh, wow.
So that space is revolutionary in terms of its ability to democratize connection. If you have the right words and if you're savvy enough. And if you're confused, DM me. I can't really do that one-on-one work anymore, but I have scores of people I can send you to help you get to that place. Anybody listening who's kind of like, how do I DM someone cold? There are lots of people who can teach you that are trusted. Not me, but I can send you them. So where I'm going with this is, we no longer live in a world where there have to be any true silos, and that's a blessing for those of us who want to create more light, who want to, the three of us, it looks like we're opening our eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I dare say that makes us woke. I'm not really sure how you can get through a business day without being in this state of wokefulness. I mean, I was as terrified as the next sophomore who read Brave New World.
Yeah.
Like, let's all stay away from the Soma, guys. It doesn't go anywhere good. But what I think we're seeing is a world where we're trying to be, for lack of a better analogy, force-fed Soma into exhaustion, where we just sort of try to accept that it's not that bad.
Mm.
And so we stop talking about it and we go back to talking about our sunshines and our rainbows. And if you look at the Super Bowl, the early ads coming out, our Clydesdales and our cute animals and all of the things that allow us to live in a place of privilege in these United States of America. But as marketers, going back to your very first question, nobody has more power to show people what's really going on. And I didn't say scare.
Right.
Scare is when you have an attack ad where a woman is an elderly woman is getting robbed because she didn't have the right security system.
Yeah,
that's scare.
Yeah. Right.
This is show.
Yeah.
And this is encouraging us to keep these conversations going, to ignore those who tell us that they are frivolous, because we have way too much historical context, even within, some of ours and our parents' lifetimes, to show us that we cannot afford to turn a blind eye right now. And so for marketers, you've got 20, 30, 40, 50,000, depending on the size of your company, million, deciding on the size of your company, of marketing budget to allocate. My book is meant to challenge them with the question of, what win-wins are you going to find where you're not only creating financial value for your business, but you're actually doubling down on that because you did the ultimate thing that every marketer knows is the cheat code to outside success, to quote my friend Marcus Collins, and that is emotional connection.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Well, you bring up a really good point that I wanted to ask about, because you talk in your book about like perceived risk versus status quo. So, there's a lot of folks in that are dealing with marketing budgets and marketers that are just like, well, we don't want to push it too far because of the political climate. Perhaps maybe they're just staying status quo. We're not gonna. But then there's other companies. I mean, look what Ben and Jerry's is doing right now. With their TikTok strategy and everything like that, they're coming out full bore like, hey, we know what's going on, that there's a very charged climate, and we want to make sure people know where we stand.
Exactly. I mean, when I first started doing this work and this research, one of the lines, and I can be kind of a cornball, but one of the lines that came to me, and has never left my website, is "Fortune favors the bold."
Yep.
And that is no truer now than it ever has been. I read a great marketing book, and I keep quoting them, so I need to actually do a post and credit these authors. But Zigzag was one of the first marketing books I loved when I was living in Chicago, just like an English major who didn't know anything. Um, this is a fun aside. It was such an English major who didn't know anything. They saw the promise in me of my passion and my potential. And I say this because, as an aside, this is something that so many people like me, who may not be the normative in whatever way, or the perceived normative in whatever way, whether it is, size inclusivity, whether it is race, whether it is gender. I beat every single one of the other Wharton MBA or Wharton undergrads in my class as an English major, never having taken a single marketing class, to get the most prestigious marketing job. And it's just because I wasn't full of myself. I was like, wow, this stuff is cool. And they're like, what are some of your favorite brands? And I was like, oh, what is this new Gmail thing that just came out? I'm dating myself. And I love it because it does this. And so it's like, marketing is not rocket science. I have doctors in my family. God bless them. I have lawyers in my family. God bless them. We are in a very lucky situation where a lot of what we get to do is about thinking. That's why an English major is good preparation. Analyzing, making arguments. And so being always convinced that you're right puts you in a place where you can't do that job very well.
Correct.
And so that's what we're starting to see right now. It's like, if you can be okay, and I'm sorry, but because I loved, look, if you looked around my space right now, if I had to just give a guess, it's probably 75% Target. Aside from the wardrobe, which is Farm Rio, they don't sell that there. But so this is a brand I love, and when you love a brand, they can really disappoint you, because I know for a fact, insider information and just observation, there is no way their diversity vendor efforts have not enriched them over the years. This person comes in on day one, which is the number one thing no good leader does, and says, you're all out. I don't care what you've been doing. I'm not looking at a report. I don't want to know anything about efficacy. I don't want to see your face. You're out. It's not logical.
No.
It's just not. Listen, if he said that after 3 months of studying, I might even say, all right, so what do we need to do to fix
Yeah.
our diversity and equity? But to abolish, you're coming from a nefarious place. What are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? Are you afraid of people smarter than you challenging you? Well, your track record would tell us that's the case. And so if you want to insulate yourself where the Pete Hegseths of the world are 2-3 sheets to the wind to know what's going on, and they're in charge of billions of dollars of defense secretary money. Sorry, I know we're going off tangent. That's fine, but it goes back to leadership. And let's go back to this topic, content marketing. It is all about the proof in the pudding, and you can't find that unless you're willing to test, learn, and adjust before you throw babies out with bathwater.
Right.
Absolutely.
Because if we didn't do that, we wouldn't have Google performance ads. I don't have the statistic, but I'm guaranteed. I have and especially with a lot of the clients I've consulted with, most of those things don't make a lick of money. But we spend on them, and we spend on them, and we optimize them, and we optimize them, and we bring Accenture in to make it better, and we pay more people, and we pay more people. Why are we more invested in that than diversity, equity, and inclusion in a country that was built by slaves?
Right.
Absolutely.
We have to ask ourselves these tough questions.
Absolutely. So what, and you talked about this, the supplier, the importance of the supplier diversity. But the same thing goes for, how do we maintain our critical diversity of thought and our content operations and our customer conversations? Like, how do we, create a team that's focused on that? And you kind of talk about this in the book about educating everyone as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think the answer is we do. It's
Mhm.
funny because you bring up just the other day, I was celebrating Elf Beauty for all of the amazing work they've been doing, for putting their foot down and saying, look, we can't divest from diversity because that would mean we'd be divesting from our business.
Mhm.
Like, that's a paraphrase, but they're like, what do you even mean? Like, our
Right.
entire thing is about bringing communities together to use our products. So like, yeah, exclusion doesn't really fit into that mix. Um, and then, I'm always a yes and person. That's generally like what we independent consultants do, whether the request for a critique was um was requested or whether we're just suggesting it. I did the celebration sandwich show. It's like they know I love them. They're in my book. A number of Elf employees were at the book signing that I did last week at Oberlin's offices, who's their agency who actually is spearheading a lot of their really cool DEI related initiatives, including change the board game. And so in a very, 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 hopefully what came up as a polite comment to the CEO, I said, look, you don't have to talk to your team as 45% diverse.
Mhm.
Because what does that mean? That means that the 55% are not diverse.
Mhm.
Well, what are they? White men?
Mhm.
Or straight. Like, I don't, like, we're all diverse when we come together in a group that has an appropriate mix of perspectives, backgrounds, ethnicities. And there is no silver bullet for what that looks like.
Mhm.
But when it comes to what a brand needs in order to be most successful, who needs to be in the room, that's where we have to get starting a lot more intentional about, yes, and I go back to what a lot of folks are moving away from, setting the quotas,
Mhm.
because quotas are goals. See, Tucker Carlson, bless his heart, he's done a lot of changing words in the English language so that we think they're bad. Goal has always been a good thing. Quota became a bad thing, right? It became a punitive thing. No, it's a goal. So you have a number in mind of what you would like to achieve. So you're not always just saying, that guy's more of a, that gal's more of a, that person, they, being gender inclusive, are more of a fit for us.
Mhm.
Without quotas, we aren't able to get ourselves past the idea that comfort is not the goal.
Mhm.
Success is.
Right.
And that might take going through the discomfort of getting somebody who may not fit for whatever reason to fit. That's the goal of the leadership. You
Mhm.
don't just get to find people who fit and you're sitting back there, drinking your Celsius or whatever and having a good time.
Yeah.
Like, the goal of management is to create harmony. And I
Mhm.
think we've lost the plot on that.
Mhm.
I love Gary Vee. It's the one thing that I have ever critiqued on one of his posts where it was like, get toxic employees out. Toxic? Who gets to decide?
Mhm.
Yeah.
If you have an 80% white male, I don't know the dynamics over there, and I actually love that entire team. But let's say you even have let's go very, what we know is not the case. Let's say you have a 40% white male team over there. And those 40% think the women coming in um are toxic.
Mhm.
Does that make them toxic?
Mhm.
Who gets to say toxic? Is this like Yellow Jackets? Is this like whoever runs the fastest? You know what I mean? So there's a lot of things we need to question. And
Mhm.
without being too long-winded, I'm sorry, I've barely taken a pause. I know you have more questions. Um, I just want this year to be a year where every single individual, and it doesn't even have to be have the same perspective as me,
but
have your own perspective.
Yeah.
Have your own perspective.
Yeah. Well, okay, this is a perfect segue into this question I had for you. If a brand or someone doesn't currently have a responsible marketing mission,
Sure.
what are some key questions that you think that they should ask themselves, or things to consider before they start, formulating a mission statement?
Don't make me open the book. No, I won't do that. Paraphrasing, and I mean, I'm going to plug my friend Dr. Anastasia Karklina Gabriel's book, not just because we're from the same publisher, because they don't do any kind of when she sells her book, she sells hers, I sell mine, I make my money, but I believe in her work. And Marcus Collins is another person. John Graham, who wrote Plantation Theory, is another person. Ivante Daniels is another person. There's just so many of us who are writing books challenging the status quo along these lines. And with that collective, I just quickly mentioned, and there are many, many more. Um, what I think we would all say, and what I have said, is that it's not about exactly what questions that you ask, but it's about finding out what your historical debts are. What do you owe? What can you fix based on the specific, right, like value proposition of your brand? For example, Aunt Jemima, and I come from a Pepsi legacy. Gatorade was my first job. So I was at building out there in Chicago where Aunt Jemima was before it became called what it is now. And yeah, it's kind of like it's unsettling to walk to breakfast every day and see a woman pretty much like in a mammy role. I never questioned it, but then once I started to question it, I did question it. Couldn't do anything about it at that phase. But what did they do as PepsiCo? Years later, and it's never too late, they decided to change the name of that company to really honor the person that was behind it, right? And not just caricature her as an aunt without a real name, that's almost like a joking figure. That sort of a rebranding is paying your historical debt. And I mean, just think about the way things are in life in general. Like again, marketing's not that different than life in general. When you pay a debt, you feel good. The person you paid it to feels good, even if it doesn't matter to them. Because it's not like it was reparations. Like as far as I know, there were. I think it's the Pearl Cleage Company. I can't look that up right now, but maybe in post we can do it. I don't know how fancy you all get with posts, so let me not suggest what you're doing on my live stream at all. But anybody can Google it. But the emotional repayment of debt, how is that not going to ingratiate you to people who are at the shelf, see that, and are comparing it with like, I don't buy fake pancake syrup because I'm from, the East Coast, Western Pennsylvania. Like I like that good Vermont stuff. But like, who are you going to choose? And that's one of the studies I did in my book, which in partnership with Sparks and Honey, and a lot of the great researchers there. We really asked ourselves, and if anyone grabs the book, you can see this in the back, like all the results are there. If people don't actually need, or it's not personally relevant to them, the the solving of historical debt or the sort of creation of a more inclusive product. We use the example of a lipstick cap that is easier for people with mobility issues to open. Even people without mobility issues are going to be attracted to want that. This is my rare beauty blush. I love that Selena was doing that. I happen to have a sister with special needs who has mobility issues, but that really wasn't why. It was more just like, I am so glad that we live in a world where we're invested in finding solutions for everybody. Not just me, not just Robbie Starbuck.
Yeah.
Yes.
Next time, get me on with him. We'll have a fun time.
Yeah, yeah.
They're
That
like,
would be,
nope.
that would be interesting. Yeah. Kim, our editorial director, says it's Pearl Milling Company.
Thank you. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I don't even know what it was I said. Thank you,
I
Kim.
don't know.
I
Well, I
need a
have one
kid.
more question for you, Lola. What if we go out and we have a responsible marketing initiative and we get it wrong, even if we have our best intentions? What do you tell people then? Just give it up?
Yes. Here, listen. And I want to shout out Robert Livingston, who's a great LinkedIn creator, affiliated with Harvard, I believe. I'm not sure if he's a professor, but I'm going to go with Harvard professor. Correct me if I'm wrong later. He wrote on LinkedIn this really great, and I quoted it in the book and source him. Um, Sort of framework of thinking through how to properly apologize. And I'd also been thinking around these ideas myself for a long time. So I would encourage everybody to go check out Robert's work along these lines specifically. But in my paraphrase, number one thing you never do is don't let that word intent cross your lips. I know it's hard because we have been so ingrained into this idea that, well, I didn't mean it. Like, if you ever watch reality TV, like this is like I do, this is very hard because it's always the first thing. Well, that wasn't my intention. Nobody asked you about your intention. I just told you the impact what you did had on me.
Mm.
Right.
So the apology is about, I am so sorry that what I said had such a negative impact on you. I would love to spend more time listening so that I fully understand where you're coming from. And again, I have lawyers in my family. So nowhere in what I just said did I say I'm taking responsibility for it.
Mm.
But anybody can be sorry that the words that they use had a negative effect on somebody else. That is not, in fact, admitting guilt. Sometimes and very often it should be, but that's opinion stuff. We don't have to go there. But it costs nobody anything to say, I'm sorry about the effect what
Mm.
we did as a brand had on you as consumers. We value you. We're listening to you. We are so grateful. Like, I don't remember all those fashion brands that were having all those faux pas a couple years ago. It's like, well, anybody, the statements were things like, anybody who knows us would know we would never. Like,
Mm.
who are your PR people? It's like, I am so sorry that when you saw this image, it took you there.
Mm-hmm.
And we are lucky to have your insights. We pay for focus groups.
Yeah.
That's another thing I try to tell marketers. Why are you so upset at getting critique? You used to pay a lot of money to sit in a glass box and let people tear you to shreds. What's different about this?
Right.
It's
Yeah.
free.
Yeah.
So
That's right.
humility,
I
humility, humility,
yeah.
humility,
Yeah.
humility.
Lola, I
Humility
think
is the way. And you see the top CEOs, even I'll give him props again. The CEO of Elf Beauty, when I did my yes and obviously this man is brilliant. I'm probably not telling him he didn't anything he didn't already know. But it was just such an enthusiastic, yeah, Lola, you're right. Thank you. Those are the people who lead in society.
yeah.
Mm.
They are not concerned about this. They're concerned about that. And for anybody who wants to know what a heart gesture looks like, it's like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'll leave it at that.
And those are the people and the brands that you want to follow.
Right.
I mean, that's what.
Absolutely. And I mean, here's my thing. I feel very comfortable in any room you'll put me in. I have friends, up, down, all around, different sides of the aisle. Now, where I draw the line is if you express that you don't believe anybody has a right to exist on this planet Earth or in these United States of America because you don't respect the way that they have been born,
Mm-hmm.
those are people I won't sit with. But anybody who wants to have a conversation about where we've gotten, whether it's on Fox News or NPR, Like, I want to be a person who can sort of help steward us towards a better level of togetherness. Because, oh, and I used to hate when I would hear people say this, but I'm going to say it now. Turning 40 makes you so sappy. We really aren't as different as we would like to think we
Mhm.
are.
Right.
Mhm.
We've
Yep.
just been beaten down.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So let's
Yeah.
let's stand up.
Mhm.
Especially those of us who have these really fun jobs where we have so much control, to go back to the beginning of your conversation, over what people see, consume, hear. So if we're going to shape culture, let's shape it in a way that includes all of us.
Mhm. I love it. That's a great way to end, Lola. And I highly recommended following Lola on LinkedIn. You are, it's just great to get your insight, your perspective on everything that's going on. And the book, Responsible Marketing, I think this is it's a great book club book, I think, for a good marketing teams. They should try it as well. Where can people, so we'll put the link to getting the book in the comments here, but how else can people
Yeah, that's perfect.
find
It's on
you?
the homepage of my website, makeitbe.co. If that's hard to remember,
Mhm.
responsiblemarketingbook.com. And it goes to the same page. There are all the links to the places that you prefer to buy books, whether you're a Jeff Bezos type of guy or gal. And if you do buy from Jeff, all I ask is that you leave me a review. Bookshop.org, Barnes and Noble, whatever it may be. And you can also buy directly from my publisher, Kogan
Mhm.
page, who
Mhm.
does actually give out a bit of a discount to all direct buy. So there will be events also coming up in the next couple of months. So I would love for, if you have a moment, to just jot your name on my email list there when you get to the site. If you follow me on LinkedIn, please put the bell on, because, as you know, the sorts of things that I talk about don't always get the most love on the algorithm. But I also just
They're
want to say
important.
they are important. And
Mhm.
it's funny because Cindy Gallup, who wrote my foreword, and this is sisterhood, okay? Some people might say they're going to invite you to dinner and charge you $300 and whatever, and we're all going to kiki. No hate on that. But when it's December of last year, I've been idolizing and studying this woman since I first got exposure to her in Scott Galloway's Luxury Lab event in 2000, really dating myself, 10, when I was in business school. Never met her, followed her over the years. All these years later, the minute I asked her if she might consider writing a foreword for my book, it wasn't even 60 seconds before she responded back and
Oh,
said yes.
wow.
Oh, it's fantastic.
And this is the sort of thing that, like, when people say that there are those who talk the talk and those who walk the walk, I can only aspire to walk that level of walk. So everybody, and if you have trouble financially and you want to read the book, do DM me. There are things we can do to make sure that you're able to get your hands on a copy. Okay.
Awesome.
Awesome. And so many great case studies, examples. Like it's chock full. So
There are so
thank
many.
you.
I've been meaning to do a LinkedIn post tagging everybody who's either mentioned, quoted, or interviewed in the book. And it's like,
It's a lot.
it's almost overwhelming because there are so many. I'll leave you with saying I wanted to create the most diversely sourced
Mhm.
marketing book ever.
Mhm.
I don't think it was that hard. But what I think makes it special is that, again, because of that, it's better.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that
Real
includes my
world.
white
Yep.
male friends,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
Diversity includes everybody. I could go on for hours. Thank you both so much. I hope we get to do this again. South by
Yes, I
maybe?
loved
Absolutely.
it, Lola. Yes.
Thank you so much,
Can, you
Lola.
never
This was
know.
great.
I appreciate
Yes.
you taking the time. So
Thank you so
until next
much.
time, we appreciate it. Thank you,
See you
Lola.
later.
All
Take care,
right. Take
Lola.
care, everybody.
Bye bye.
Awesome.
How
Awesome.
great was
So
that?
that was awesome. So let's get through. We have a couple of things just about wrapped here that we want to tell you about, JK, correct? What do we got
We
here?
do. We do. Guess what, folks? That's right. We're heading back to sunny San Diego for Content Marketing World 2025. And how does that, I mean, doesn't that just sound wonderful, especially now? Like, you know, I think my backside is still frozen, so I need to get to some sun. So look, we're looking for some bold ideas and actionable advice to inspire marketers to elevate their careers and drive their business forward. So why don't you come and speak? Check out the link here that we have, CMI Media /speaker 25 to sign up. And let's get you on that roster of all those great speakers for Content Marketing World. It's fantastic. And once again, let me remind you, it's in San Diego. Come on. And finally, we have our CMI mentorship program. It's open for applications. Are you a great content marketer looking for some career guidance and from someone outside your organization who understands the industry landscape? Maybe somebody that can give some really cool advice, that's just not right down the hall from you. So you need to talk through the marketing challenges you face. Then you should apply for this. Visit the link here. Our mentorship program, it's fantastic. We've had it for so many years. And, it's so cool to see the relationships that the mentors and the mentees have made over the years and some of the great work that comes out of that relationship. And I just love seeing everybody kind of meeting up and sharing ideas and seeing where their careers lead after. So it's a great program.
A lot of our mentees then usually become mentors. So
Yes,
that's always a great progression of the program. So, all right. So that was a packed show. So thank you to everyone who joined us here today with Lola. And we will be back again next month. I'm not sure what our topic is yet, but stay tuned and watch for that. And until then, everyone have a great week, and maybe January will end sometime soon, and we can move on.